everyone. Welcome back to All Roads Lead to Archive, Qualstar series about everything media and data and broadcast, generating tons of media and data every day. Makes sense to dig into what's awesome in the world of live production. I like things that just make sense. Today we're sitting down with Jeremy Morris, the product evangelist with VIZRT. I've known Jeremy for quite a few years, and he's well known in the systems design for live production space and has one of the best beards in the business. Jeremy, thanks for joining me today. VIZRT and the company you originated at with them, NewTek, have been mainstays in live production, including introducing NDI, which changed the way so many think about video and audio transport. So first, let's get started with you. How'd you end up in this crazy, awesome industry?
Going in the Wayback Machine, I started in high school in Jay County, Indiana, on a video toaster. Way back in the late 90s. And so my career has kind of come full circle. I spent 18 years in the dealer world, so doing integrations to system design and whatnot. Was one of the leading NewTek dealers, and in our past lives rivaled each other. So then I had the opportunity to actually go and work for NewTek, and I kind of jumped the opportunity to just deal with my products that I loved on a daily basis. Now I have them in my home. So I've been here a little over 6 years now. In the world of combining NewTek and VIZRT, and so we got the blue and the orange going on.
That's a good thing. I mean, you mentioned blue and orange. Those were my high school colors, and I also started in high school. I was doing live news. Started my junior year, so it's always good when you find out what you want to do nice and early.
Yes.
So let's jump in with Viz. Tricaster over the years has become a huge presence in the vision mixer. That means switcher for those who don't know. Space. I'd love to hear about what's new and exciting on the development front and future ads the line has gone through lately.
Yeah, so the Tricaster, again, this was the 20th birthday, if you will, of the Tricaster product line. And we talked about that at NAB 2025 and showed off all the different variations. We had a nice sticker and a branding talk about the Tricaster turns 20. Well, the leverage that VIZRT brought with the NewTek merger, far more developed on the software side, which is really cool because Viz having a strong software graphics design background and us having a switching background allowed for a lot of cross collaboration, which took off like a rocket. So we were able to come out with the Tricaster Vision as the latest flagship product and really push the boundaries of what the software defined video storytelling appliances could be. And we're not limited to hardware anymore. We launched Tricaster Mini S, which is our first software-only version of the Tricaster. And what was cool about both those products on both ends of the spectrum is it broadened the use case and where we fit in just about every vertical market you can think of, and from the content creator side up to corporate, up to the big call letter stations running our products in some variation, some form or factor. So that allowed us to spread out quite effectively. And then we also announced the Zoom integration, which is really key. Zoom has been a very good partner of ours to allow for the embedded SDK inside the software to allow platforms like this to become part of the larger broadcast ecosystem. And that's not just talking about call letter stations, but also in the corporate space and sports, and really able to branch out. So it's been very cool watching that rapid development.
Yeah, I was a previous user of Live Call Connect quite a bit, and it was a great addition, made things nice and simple. Anytime you can smack the easy button, that's a great thing. And the collaborations that are going on there, that sounds like the perfect thing. And it also sounds like you've kind of untethered yourselves from having to worry about hardware development life cycles. So someone else comes out with something brand new and really cool. It's a card that sits in a computer. It's just a matter of you guys figure out how to talk to it. And then that unlocks a whole bunch of other cool stuff.
Oh, yes, it does. And we're constantly working on that in the background. Right now, the Mini S is NDI only. We have several partners out there qualifying different types of capture cards and things like that. So more will come on that. We're crawling before we run on some of that because we want to make sure connectivity is going to work and is going to be supported for our end users. We're not just going to drop something out in the public, say, here, go have at it, and then when it breaks, what are you going to do? So we want to make sure that it's qualified and supported in that life cycle. So I know a lot of cool stuff is still to come.
That sounds perfect. I just got back from the Sports Video Group Summit in New York. I mean, literally earlier this morning. Viz has a whole slew of products that play well with sports production, from good old-fashioned replay
Mhm.
to advanced graphics, AR production, sports analysis. How has the expanded products of Viz been able to help with production of all manner of sport production?
That's been really cool because it's not just talking to the top tier. Like if you think about EuroLeague and soccer and FIFA and all that stuff that Viz has done for forever all over Europe, we've transcended some of that to not just U.S. markets, but also different types of sporting events where it's either on-field branding or, like you said, it's the replay action. We even have Flowix, which is our HTML5 graphics platform that we've distributed now to some college conferences that are using it, and that sort of fashion, where it's a conference purchase that spreads the love across all the schools, and they all have enterprise access to that. And the cool thing about Flowix being in the cloud, you're doing content creation anywhere on the planet, and then you're using that URL as a downstream key into a Tricaster. So it definitely spreads the love and allows more users to then be engaged with the products, not only for production but also pre-production. Because if you think about, especially in the college space, you want to build curriculum. You want to have some value for your students that they're going to have when they graduate, a marketable skill. Well, we're able to do that now and segment a lot of those different resources. So we can have true content creation. We can have true from a production standpoint, and then also on the production side, be able to produce the various platforms across all different manners of sports, whether or not it's traditional, your basketball, football, soccer, baseball, but even like Olympic type sports. We can bring in that timing and scoring data in a way that allows them to produce content that they never had access before, because usually those systems are very, very expensive for the graphics side. We've made it very cost effective for a lot of schools, especially in the mid-tier, even lower levels, are taking great advantage of that. We've done a lot of cool stuff in minor league hockey and a few other where it gets them onto a streaming platform. So maybe you're not going to broadcast linear television, but at least you're getting the content out. And so that's been really sweet. So yeah, we've always had the Tricaster and 3Play to do a lot of that, but now with the graphics associated with it, it really takes it to another level.
Perfect. And the one thing I did see at the show was a lot of the truck companies and production companies are beginning to spin up their own training programs because they need more people who are skilled and able to do this. And shoot, I remember when I was in college, the thing about sports was just can you follow the ball fast enough as it goes
right? Can you track? Yep.
Yeah, and now there's a whole bunch of other stuff there, and maybe some of the tracking will get done by by other things. I don't have to worry about what the heck is camera 2 doing? Why are they looking at that part of the audience?
Yep.
So it's a brave new world there, and lots of good educational opportunities as well.
Yes, very much so. AI player tracking on some of the graphic programs. Makes that thing very cool. I mean, you go back to when Fox had the puck that lit up, and everyone thought, oh, that was groundbreaking, and then you couldn't find it because it was just the entire image was blurred by a graphic. Well, now we've taken technology, applied that to some graphic elements, and see stuff done in real time, and then also being able to do that as a sponsored package to be produced in like highlight reels, whatever. So you see a lot of monetary value in that now, where it wasn't really looked at before. But the way content is consumed nowadays, you're talking about everything's being seen on a phone. You're not watching things, in front of a television. So how do graphics fit that? And our adaptive graphic platform, we're able to do that. So you can have the same look going out multiple different types of platforms, either linear or streaming. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's what they apparently are calling shoulder content. It's not just the main, but
right.
You get that on the sides.
Yep.
So talking about all of that visualization and real-time stuff, that kind of gets us into the virtual set world. A lot of folks who watch many different types of programs don't really know that their favorite personalities are not in that cool space that you see. It's a video wall and composite elements to make the interactive spaces, keeping those audiences engaged. What has 2025 brought new to this space from Viz?
Well, with further development, we've had a great partnership with the Unreal Engine platform for a long time, and being able to take that on to the next step further, not just on our high-end virtual set workflow, but also with NDI transmit back and forth. So we're able to take elements from an NDI system, get it into Unreal, and then back out again. So then we have that cross-collaboration between platforms. We play well with others at VIZRT. We can talk to anybody's anything pretty much. And then being able to use that content or use those signals or use that command and control, the API functions, really makes things cool and expands that workflow quite a bit. So, and when it comes to virtual, I mean, NewTek did that forever and a day with the MEs far before most people could even think about it. It made it cost effective. Now we run the gamut from small entry level. You know, you've got a city council member who is sitting on a director's chair in front of a green screen in a closet, making it look like he's out next to a lake to do just announcement type stuff. And I use that as an example because I did that once, all the way to full motion capture type elements in Unreal. So we run the spectrum of the capabilities in the virtual world. And yeah, to your point, what you're watching on TV, you know, it really is fake news. Sorry for the joke, but there's so many elements that are not real and you don't know it. That's the real takeaway, that we're able to then deliver that content in so many different ways to so many different people. And yeah, we could have a conversation side by side and we're completely across the country or across the world in different elements, but it makes it look like we're in the same environment. So it's been very fun. Adding some of the Zoom feature sets, we're doing green screen in front of with the Zoom call. You know, even we can't make it that simple. I've done it with an iPhone out in a field, and just key correctly, and make sure the lighting's right, and we can bring that in that virtual space. So that's also really cool about the technology that we use, because we're software driven. It makes it far more nimble, that we can be more creative with how the participants of the production are being utilized and being seen in a way that really hasn't been done before. I mean, you know, but the giant rigs with the tracking and the, you know, all that stuff, and you had to be in the set that was set correctly, and the lighting and everything had to be exactly perfect. Not so much anymore. The world has changed quite a bit, and even on the LED wall background stuff, which is really cool. We saw some stuff at NAB this year that did it with projectors instead. So, you know, it's ever changing. I hate the term future proof, because nothing ever is. It's what's next. It's how do you mitigate, how do you expand, how do you scale, you know, without having to rip everything out and start over each time. And so we allow for that, especially with the NDI technology. You can add parts and pieces, you can experiment, you can develop and involve your ecosystem that doesn't break the bank. That's the other cool part.
Yeah, not breaking the bank is the best part, because people don't really have gigantic budgets.
Oh yeah, and that's changed quite a bit over the years. And you talk about who controls the budgets. I have far more conversations with IT administrators than actual senior broadcast engineers anymore. You know, it's who controls the purse strings, who's driving the project, how does it end up, especially in the corporate space. You know, that's all, you know, driven by IT for the most part. And so then how do you play well on their network and in their environment and their ecosystem? And then it's more on the output deliverables. Show them what you can do, then worry about all the bits and, you know, nuts and bolts. And you're not selling a box anymore, you're selling a solution. So how does that solution fit, and who you're talking to make sure it makes sense to them? And so that goes back to that evangelism part that I do. That's the idea. What do you want to do? How do you want to get there? Let's talk about that. What's your budget? Let's then form a solution that makes sense. And then, yes, you'll see the sheet. You'll see what, you know, prices are on it at that point, because, you know, it's just click and ship only gets you so far.
This is true. And, you know, as we've merged with technology, there's very few people who are IT and broadcast both at the same time. It's a matter of people have to learn about the other side of things and integrate that into their skill sets as they move forward.
Oh yeah, it's a challenge. It's been challenging, but it also keeps my job interesting. I will say that.
That it does. So the utilities, similar to the NDI toolkits, there's a number of hardware and software devices that simply make things work. What's new and cool in this often unseen and unsung space?
Yeah, so a lot of things have been on the development on the NDI side, especially. Now we have kind of carved them off as their own separate entity. So that allows them to do a lot more of the communication between all the manufacturers. And so we do have that certification program. So once you're NDI certified, that comes down to basically true plug and play. So that also helps the end users when they're developing their ecosystem and their workflow, and even with, you know, our dealer partners and whatnot, how they're structuring the overall package. They can start to pick and choose whatever makes the most sense for the end user budget-wise. You know, do a camera shootout, what PTZ looks the best in that environment, things like that. But then you're still leveraging the same type of connectivity. And you know that, hey, I'm dealing with certified NDI devices. Okay, great. we do have that almost true plug and play now. So things will come up, they will talk to each other, and then utilizing the NDI toolkit, like you've got Discovery Server, you've got NDI Bridge, you've got so many other tools that then links all those different devices together. Now I can utilize that in pretty much any way I want to. NDI being pretty much the only true bidirectional AV over IP protocol means devices can be both sources and destinations simultaneously. Well, that allows for a lot of development, especially on the software side, but also on the hardware side. There's some cool stuff coming out for some other manufacturers that have kind of taken run with that idea of what can I really do with that NDI signal in either direction as a send or a receive. So that then expands the capabilities. You've got a lot more Swiss Army knives out there. I hate unitaskers. Even our VIZConnect solos do more than one thing. So, so we want that to happen. We want that in the hands of the end users to allow them to adapt to what they want to do. And it's been really cool seeing that development, especially with the certification process. You see that on displays now. You've got more cameras coming and more edge devices in that NDI ecosystem. So it's not all just software, but yeah, definitely hardware devices as well.
And that also lets people do things that are kind of off the reservation because they don't need to worry about it's just going to work. I mean, I've been playing with NDI over Wi-Fi, which is never recommended. It'll work in certain circumstances, but let's try to stretch the envelope.
Yep. Yeah, I always say wireless is 100% reliable 30% of the time. Doesn't matter what technology it is. If it's a microphone, if it's video, if it's internet, whatever, cell phone data. So it's mitigation. What makes the most sense? I mean, we've done it. I mean, I've had a lot of churches that'll use like an iPhone as a baptismal camera, just because it's not an everyday use. It's just for certain events that then they're bringing that NDI signal back into the Tricaster for production. So there's a lot of cool ways we can do it with that and make it work in that environment. Now, again, it's not just always going to work no matter what. It's like, no, you got to make sure that you understand the signal flow and whatnot. So it is functional, but yeah, once you understand and get it to work like that, the way you need to, the end result is very cool.
And it also works out well because some cell phones are completely waterproof. So if it goes for a dunk, it's not going to be a big cost for the production, and especially in a small budget place like a house of worship.
And we've done some stuff with some naval vessels. Let's also say that. With some NDI tools. So there's a lot of ways we can make it work. It's awesome. Very hard for me to get to a no. But when I say no, is like, either that that doesn't exist yet. That technology is not there, or you need a larger check with far more zeros on the end of it. But for the most part, I'll find a way. I'll make it work.
Yep, that's I mean, that's what broadcast is all about. Make it work. Mm-hmm. So, big part of broadcast is news, and the overall workflow management. This is an evolving space for Viz, isn't it? And how it distributes over other verticals.
Yeah, because we've been in the tier 1 broadcast space for forever, not just on the graphics side, but then also on the automation. Mossart's been a huge player for such a long time. We're able to take that technology into the corporate space as corporate video has exploded over the last several years, and it's not just, hey, I'm doing a webinar, an all-hands meeting, a Zoom call, or I'm talking to the press. There's a lot more development in that. There's the VOD aspect of the learning and the continuing education inside of a company. There's more development of the internal, employees, for lack of a better term, to enhance their skill sets, and a lot of that's done through video. And we're able to do that with a lot of our tools. So then you get a lot of that, what I call the pro AV / broadcast merger of technology into a space that really hadn't been there before. You would have that traditional AV is like, okay, I walk into a room, I plug into a laptop, it feeds a projector. Okay, well, now we've added cameras, we've added distance learning, we've added VMRs, the virtual meeting rooms, we've added streaming, we've added, video on demand, we've got a YouTube. Now we're combining all these different types of media consumption technologies. How we're going to play with that? Well, okay, we have the tools, we can do that. So we've got lecture capture, we've got traditional broadcast, we've got streaming, we've got graphics, we have automation. And so you tie in the capabilities of our system and simplify that, like you mentioned before, that big fat easy button. We can take that and then simplify that. So you don't have to be a seasoned veteran in a broadcast production environment. You can walk in as an intern or a trainee or an admin and know it's like, hey, I hit that button, it does what the button says. We can make it that simple. And so that also leverages everything that we've done forever in tier one broadcast, all that learned experience and that knowledge and that capability, and simplified that for just about any end user in any vertical market, not just corporate, but house of worship, education, local municipality government. We've done a lot there as well. So it does make a very nice use case. We can just customize that solution for those end users.
Democratization of the advanced tool sets
Yep.
for everyday users. I like it. So the thing about those tier one broadcast environments, that also gets into that whole ecosystem that makes it all happen. And I think this ends up where things end up being stored. And, you know, where things are stored, I always see this road to archive. It's kind of weird.
No, it's true, because you're producing all this content, and it has to go somewhere. And a lot of times when I bring that up in the initial conversation, then brains kind of lock up, and I start seeing smoke, or I hear crickets. It's like, oh, we didn't think about that. It's like, yeah, you got to think about that. Thankfully, we have that built into the Tricaster, as you got the streaming, you got the switching and recording all in one device. But in the case of like a Tricaster Vision that has 44 inputs, I can't ISO record all 44 inputs directly to the Tricaster. So we have the NRS, we have other types of devices that we can then send that content to. So that also makes it nice for the end users. Like, okay, I feel comfortable storing this. I'm recording this. It's high-end video for video production use. That's also key, because you'll get a lot of those, especially on the IT side, like, oh, we got storage. No, you got a USB drive sitting on a shelf. That's not, no, we're not going there. Even though it happens. I've had a client that said, yes, I had 300 jump drives in my back closet. That's my archive. And I just, yeah, that was sad. But we're getting them into a new workflow that makes sense. And so from an archive perspective, you have a lot of institutions that require that meeting recording to be around for many, many years. How are you going to protect it? How are you going to make sure it's available when needed, when called upon? You have that in government. You have that, Library of Congress. You've got that in the medical field. You've got that in a lot of other areas where content is being produced. We have to store it. Okay, where do we store it? How does it get there? How are we going to manage that? And so thankfully, we got a lot of different partners in that space that we can talk to. How do we migrate all that data and all that content? And if it's usable, if it's needed. If it's ISO recordings of a meeting space and you've got a talking head, I don't need 4 hours of a councilman falling asleep. I might want to clip a little bit of it, post it on social media, and have a little fun with it. But yeah, clean that up. And then save the stuff that is necessary.
And the thing is, the NRS has some of those asset management tools that come inherently with it, which talk to other ways of keeping that as a longer term archive, and that's the wonderful thing about having that kind of diverse ecosystem plugged all in.
Yeah, and we can talk to just about anybody's storage on that side as well, so we can index other devices if it's something that's already existing in the plant. How do we connect to it? Index it. Now we have all of our tool sets to manage that, and then yes, store it long-term somewhere else when necessary.
Yep. Robust tool sets for all parts of your media lifecycle are always a good thing to have along for the ride.
Very much so.
Well, to our audience, thanks for diving in with us today here on All Roads Lead to Archive. Hope you've gotten as much out of this deep dive as I have. Please smash those like and subscribe buttons. Special thanks to Avid Technology for providing the editorial platform. Jeremy, it's always great to sit down and catch up and talk bits and bobs in technology and workflows. Thanks for joining us here today.
Of course. I can go on for more hours. So if we want to do another segment, we can do a deep dive on anything. So that's what I'm here for.
That sounds great. Awesome.